Hello and welcome back to Burning Questions. My name is Mbali, and before we get into it, shout out to Alex for holding the fort for me last week. So today, guys, I have an amazing guest, Frans Cronje, who's going to help us answer a burning question from one of y'all. So, guys, the question for today is: can you truly be free if you are unemployed and do not have enough to eat? Frans, I think we can jump straight into it. Can a South African be free if they are unemployed and do not have enough to eat?
Hi, Mbali. Very nice to see you and to be
Thank
here.
you.
Look, Mbali, the answer, the cliche is no.
Mhm.
That you can't be free because you don't have the resources to make the decisions about your life that you wish to. So I
Mhm.
think if you asked 9 out of 10 analysts, if you asked analysts, 9 out of 10 would tell you no, of course you're not free, you're
Mhm.
a victim of your poverty and desperation and the terrible circumstances that you live in. But is that so? Surely you've got
Mm.
to ask something else about why are you poor?
Okay.
What sits behind that? If you
Mm.
were, I would tell you this, if you're a person that lives in a terribly unfree, politically unfree society where you've got no say over
Mhm.
how you're governed,
Yeah.
and you are then a victim of policies that deny you the opportunity to find a job or live in a society with an economy that attracts a lot of investment and creates jobs and protects wealth.
Mhm.
You're denied that by an external force or power, a dictatorial authoritarian regime. If you
Mm.
lived under the Taliban in Afghanistan, then no, you're not free. But in
Mhm.
South Africa, politically, we're a fundamentally free and open society.
Mhm.
The government in charge, which implements the policies that determine the nature of the economy and its potential to create jobs, is not one foist upon us.
Yeah.
It's elected in very free elections in a very free society. So I think here the question becomes more complicated. If
Mhm.
you are a person who finds yourself unemployed because of policies in the labor market or of expropriation or of whatever the case is that makes the economy uncompetitive, but you time and again return a government to power
Mhm.
that enforces those policies or even doubles down on them, then I think you are free. And you're
Mm.
free to make choices about the type of society you wish to live in and how it wants to be governed. And
But
in that
Franz, can I
case,
just take you back a
yeah,
bit? How do you then make those choices to ensure that you live in a free society? What are the steps for a person to take in order to do that?
well, they are being taken here already. If
Mhm.
a
Which are?
government meets the aspirations of its people in a
Mhm.
fundamentally free society, that government will become more popular and return stronger majorities in elections. Now, that's exactly what did happen here about 20 years ago. South Africa,
Mhm.
25 years ago, South Africa emerges from apartheid. The
Mhm.
ANC comes to power in 94 with 63% of the vote. 10 years later, in 2004, the ANC's got 69%. It's 6 points stronger than it had been. And the
Yeah.
reason for that is that life had got better in the country. I mean, we tracked all that stuff. The number of people with jobs had doubled.
Mhm.
The economic recovery was incredibly strong. We were seeing growth rates we hadn't seen in 5 decades. The macro picture on debt and the deficit was much improved. We were rolling out the most expansive social development program of any emerging market. And service
Mm.
delivery was much more successful than the ANC had been given credit for. And therefore, its support increased. People rewarded it. What's happened
Mhm.
over the subsequent 15 years is that ANC support at a national level has fallen 12 percentage points from
Mm.
that high of 69 to 57 under Ramaphosa. We've
Yeah.
just polled, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you that, but I will. We've
Yeah.
just polled. The
Okay.
results are in the field. You're the first person to get them. We've
Oh
got
my
the
gosh.
ANC
Yeah.
at 50.3% now.
Oh my gosh.
And Ipsos, another pollster, not the one we use this time. We do sometimes use Ipsos. They had the ANC about 2 weeks ago at 49 point something percent. So it's happening in Mbali. We are free because as the economy gets deeper into a rut and jobs aren't created and people suffer more, we see exactly the predicted consequence, which is people start to drop the government of the day. So I would tell you, yes, in South Africa's case, poor people are free in the sense that they have the ability, the agency, they already demonstrate that agency to start making different political choices that will give rise in the fullness of time to different policies that might better meet their social and economic expectations. Yeah.
Okay. No, I hear you. Maybe let me pose this question. So as we're seeing that people aren't going to be voting for the ANC, well, the younger people rather aren't going to be voting for the ANC. How do you then maybe advise a young person like me, which party should I vote for? What criteria do I look for in terms of making my decision as to who do I actually vote for?
Well, you vote for whoever you want to. I mean, we're an astute society. We're a fairly well-educated society. We're probably the most educated we've ever been in
Do you think
terms of
so?
years of education. We've got absolutely free access to information and the like. And we can see the drift that's happening already towards opposition options on the whole, as that hegemony of the ANC is gradually being eroded. I suppose it means what kind of society do you want to live under? The
Yeah.
policies of parties are perfectly accessible to anyone who wishes to understand them. The performance of parties in government is perfectly accessible to any person who wishes to appreciate them. And that goes back to the point. People are free here. If you continue to return to power a government that implements policies that undermine investor confidence, and that has the consequence of mass
Yeah.
unemployment. There are consequences. So let's answer your question for you. In the case of South Africa, it makes little sense, just from an analytical perspective, to keep
Yeah.
returning the ANC to power, because it
Yes.
does badly over the last 15 years, at odds with its first decade, at creating the circumstances that would allow people to live better lives. The alternatives around it abound, and the one with the best track record, it's not a partisan endorsement of a party. This is me as an analyst. You asked me the question.
Yeah.
It's the
Yes.
Democratic Alliance. If you look at its
Okay.
performance in the Western Cape, if you look at its performance in the local authorities that it controls, if you look at independent assessments, not even the ones done by ourselves, but by other groups, about the quality of governance at local level, the DA is head and shoulders above everyone else. So the logical
Yeah.
thing to do in South Africa's case is to kick the ANC to the curb and vote for the Democratic Alliance. I mean, that's what the data and the evidence shows, and the opposition broadly around the DA too, where coalitions are possible. That also makes sense. But we're
Yeah.
seeing that already. It doesn't take an analyst to explain this stuff. Just look
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
trend figures. Look at trends for protest action in the country. You already see political opinion slowly shift in this direction. It can seem very slow at times, but
Yeah.
beware of this. Initially, big political shifts are initially incremental. They look really slow. You don't really perceive what's happening unless you watch the
Yeah.
data like we do. But those incremental changes tend to set up the big step, the big drop away when
Yeah.
the environment changes completely. And if you look at economics in South Africa, growth forecasts, the fact the government's running out of money, protest trends, and the polling that we look at, the circumstances are assembling here for a call we first made in 2014. Which is that we think the ANC will lose the 2024 national election, and if it scrapes through that one, it's gone by 2029. And I stick by that
Definitely.
call a decade later. Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, alrighty, that was not a DA endorsement, by the way, but yes, to vote for the GA.
Well, it was in a way, but I mean, it was in a way a DA endorsement, because I said you should be better off under the DA than under the ANC, but it's not a
Yeah,
part of
definitely.
that endorsement. It's not an endorsement because we like the one more than the other.
Yeah,
It's
definitely,
simply
definitely.
asking an analyst whose track record and policy offerings has the greatest prospects of getting desperately poor
So,
people out of poverty, and those are the answers.
definitely. Frans, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us to answer this question. Yeah, we appreciate your time.
It was great. And
Cool.
Mbali, thank you very much.
Cool. Guys, remember to catch the show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on IGTV, on Facebook, and as well on Twitter. We'll catch you guys next week, Wednesday.